All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Free Training Thursdays. Today's session is going to be discussing project budgeting and getting to know kind of a little bit more about how that system works. We're going to go as deep into this as we can, but there's probably going to be some things that you still have questions on. So there's going to be follow-up options for you that we get to here. So if you need a couple more things answered or we didn't quite get into the depth that you were expecting, just let us know and we'll go ahead and get you the information that you need. So just as a kind of an overview on what we're going to cover today, what we're going to be looking at is what can you actually budget within a project? Are there different things? Is it just time? Are there, other components to a budgeting within a project? And then a couple methods on how to budget within a project. And these are going to be mostly going to be based around the time component. So that's where we're going to start on that. We're going to show you how to use the work list to manage budgets and see how that all ties in together. And then we're going to discuss a little bit here on how budgets roll over with project completion. So, can you have your budget set and then have it just carry through year after year or month after month? We're going to discuss a little bit more on how that all works. So just wanted to bring that to your attention. Here's a couple resources for you guys if you aren't familiar. abacusnext.com/support. That's where you can access more training support options. And then obviously for webinars, you can go to abacusnext.com/webinars, see the upcoming webinars that we have, access any webinars that we've done in the past. You can kind of get a good snapshot as to what we're covering and what we've covered and listen in. So that's that. If you do have any questions or need a follow-up, please don't hesitate to email us. That email is on screen here, training@officetools.com. Just shoot us an email and we'll get back to you as soon as we can and get some questions answered that you have. That's not just related to project budgets. That's anything that you guys need. So just shoot us over an email and we'll be more than happy to get that rolling for you. Last but not least here in the slideshow, when it boils down, you guys have heard a couple times if you listened to any webinars over the past couple months about Abacus Maximus, our annual conference. It is July 9th, so it is coming up quick. If you haven't bought your tickets already or haven't thought about it yet, please dive in. Go take a look at abacusmaximus.com. There's going to be, great speakers, sponsors, partners. There is CPE credits available, but most importantly, it gives you the opportunity to mingle and connect with your peers on how they use OfficeTools and what struggles they've had and how they've overcome those. So it's a little bit more than just listening to me or listening to other speakers talk. It does give you an opportunity to network with other users of OfficeTools and maybe glean a little bit from what they've done, share your experiences. So if you haven't considered going, please do. abacusmaximus.com for more info. That's the end of my slideshow for that. One thing I do want to bring up as well, if you guys are not on the newest version of OfficeTools, you guys need to go ahead and jump on that. So you can see at the very top here, it's 2018.059. That's our most current live version. The reason why I wanted to bring that up before we dive into projects is you'll notice in the toolbar here, there is actually a new little button called Suggestions. So as you guys are using OfficeTools, especially those seasoned users and new users alike, but you can go in there and vote on new features and also key in what you think should be added. So this gives you the opportunity to access the suggestions area, lets you see what we're working on, what we're kind of focusing on, all that kind of stuff is all inside of there. So you guys can feel free to jump in there and take a look at that. Just as a check, can you please verify in the chat there that you guys can hear me? Anybody go ahead and just comment a question. Just want to make sure. Okay, perfect. Just wanted to make sure. All right, so let me continue now into projects. So again, the feature upvote suggestions, abacusmaximus.com. check out our upcoming webinars. You guys get the picture on that. So let's talk about projects and kind of what we're going to be looking at here for budgeting. So if you guys don't know or haven't looked at project budgeting before, we're going to dive into the projects tab. That's where we're going to be spending a lot of our time here today. All right, so the projects tab is where you can go ahead and budget. And so the first point that we had there was, what can you budget within a project? What are the different things? And when it boils down, there are 5 different types of things that you can budget within a project. Number 1 is total project hours, meaning you can come in here, right here at the bottom, where it says estimated hours, and plug in how long you want that project to take. This is a project as a whole, so you can populate in here 15 hours, 16 hours, whatever you expect this project to actually take, that's where you can budget for the project. So that's a project as a whole budget. You can also budget cost. So this is where you can specify how much you want this project to cost you. This is not for fee, which it gets confused very frequently. This is not how much you're going to bill the client. This is going to be based off the staff cost rate, as in some form of pay rate, and it's going to allow you to generate, like I said, a profitability number if you have that budgeted in there. Next is you also have a delivery date, and although this isn't what most people would consider a budget, with where it sits and how it works within OfficeTools, it actually is a budget. You can estimate when you would like to get this tax return back out to the client. So inside of here, you can specify, let's just say on the 28th, that's when you want to get this back out. That's today. Okay. And then you can specify when you actually got it out, and it will tell you if you're early or late as far as your delivery. What this allows you to do is budget out internal due dates for projects. Especially for things like tax returns, if you're in the tax industry, those have very set due dates that are the same for most things, like 1040, for example, an individual tax return. The due dates for all individual tax returns are the same in 99% of the case. So how much does that actually help you in managing your workflow? It sometimes doesn't, because information that comes in April or that type of thing, obviously it would be due later than information that comes in February, let's say. So this allows you to budget out internal due dates, and that's something that if you guys aren't using can be a very, very, very helpful tool. Number 4 is the estimated fee section here. So this is where you will put how much you expect to bill the client. So this is kind of your budgeted amount that you're going to bill. A lot of people use this for their flat rate amounts, that type of thing, because as you actually track time, you're going to end up with your real WIP number down at the bottom versus your budget, and it will show you, how you're going to pan out. 53% of your total budget is used up at this point, so if you did bill out right now, you'd be looking really good. Okay. So those are the first 4 budgets, and the last budget can be accessed whenever you're assigning work. Okay. So if you go to assign work in a project, you'll notice that you have estimated hours right here in this specific assignment. So if you guys aren't sure what assignments are, or you aren't sure what assigned work is, then you probably need to jump onto the projects webinar, the basic setup or moving a project through its workflow. Those webinars will be good. We're going to basically assume you know how to work a project and you're interested more in how to budget it. So excuse me if there's some things here that might seem direct or we might skip over some things. We just assume in this webinar that you know how to work a project. Okay. So when you're assigning out a project at this point, you can assign out a budget for that specific step that you're creating at that moment. So if I plug in an hour here, I budgeted an hour for client interview / research. So this is an assignment specific budget. Now, one major note I'd like to bring up is that if you are assigning out a budget by assignment, it will override any budget that you have in for the project. And we'll talk about that in our next 2 points. But those are the 5 things that you can budget within a project. You have your project total, budgeted hours. You have your budgeted cost, how much is it going to cost you to perform this job. Your internal due date or budgeted delivery date, and your estimated fee here, how much you're going to bill the client. And then last but not least, when you're assigning work out, you will get a budget for that assignment. So the next 2 points that we have is budgeting by project and budgeting by assignment. And to understand those, we have to understand that they will clash, meaning that you cannot use both. You will use one or the other because they actually tie directly in. So for this example, I'm going to go ahead and create a brand new project. We're going to use the 1040 as an example. And I'm going to go ahead and just click OK here. And here's our new project. Nice and clean. If I go ahead and now add in a budget for this project, and we'll say that this 1040, we're going to be spending 5 hours on it. I just budgeted by project. That's as simple as it is. So for those of you who are looking for introductory budget, introductory budget process, this would be where you want to start because this is very simple but very effective. I can pop in how many hours I expect that job to take, and as I track time, it'll give me a progress bar as to where I am within that budget. Very simple, very straightforward. There's not much to that. Now that estimated budget can always change. So if you're working on it and you decide, oh, whoa, that definitely needs like, a couple more hours on there, you can go ahead and change that inside the project itself. And again, that will represent your progress. So as you track actual time, you generate time cards, you'll see your progress bar fill up and show you the percentage of that budget that you've used. As far as this is concerned, I'll go ahead and show you. If we go into the time card section and we create a new time card, and let's just say we populated in here 2 hours, and click OK. You'll notice that that fills in that 2 hours, and now we have a progress bar filled up that shows us 25%. So as you guys are working through your budgets, each of these different types of budgets on the project level will fill up and show you how much of that budget you've used. Okay. Now, right beneath that, you also have this last period column, and this is going to show you what you actually tracked last year. So in the 1040, if you had a 2016 version and you track time against that project, you'll see all of your actual numbers from last project down here at the bottom, which can help you adjust your budget for this year if you wanted to. So if you have 12 hours in last period, and that's how much you actually tracked last time, but only 8 hours in the budget, maybe you need to adjust that budget. Okay. So this is going to show you, again, just to specify the actual amount that was tracked from the last project. Okay. So that's very basic. There's not much to it. A lot of people use this form of budgeting because there's no hidden figures here. This is just a very direct, how much are we estimating? How much are we actually tracking? How much did we track last year? And so how much have we used? What do we have available? Yeah. Pretty direct, pretty straightforward. So now let's talk about assigning things out by assignment. So we kind of talked a little bit about doing this assigned work. So if you guys, again, are familiar with projects, you know how this works. Let's just say we go ahead and pop in 2 hours as our estimated for scan and assemble. And I'm going to assign this to the fake staff member, Bruce Jones. So when I do that and I click OK, you'll notice that something happens here. Remember how I said you can't use both interchangeably? Once you assign out a budget for an assignment, this will start accumulating all of your budget assignments, meaning that it's going to update as you move your project through the workflow. It overrides anything that you had in there to start off with, because now 8 doesn't make any sense because we have a budget of 2. That's the only assignment that we've assigned at this point. And so when you work through this, if you look down here at the activity list, I'll go ahead and check off that assignment we just did, scan and assemble. And let's just say now I get this, and we have the next step, and we'll move this to review just as an example, put this to Bruce, and I'm going to add in an estimated hours here of 1.5. So another hour and a half. When you click OK, that doesn't reset to 1.5. So that's one thing I do want to make sure you guys understand, is that's not going to continue to reset. It does accumulate any budgeted assignments. And that's something you want to make sure you understand, because your budget will be representative of where you are at that moment in time within the current budgets, not where you are overall as far as an entire project budget. Once you have budgeted an assignment, this overrides. And then from that point forward, it will accumulate any new assignment budgets that you have. So understand how that works. Okay, make sure that you're not expecting it to do one thing and then have it do another. If you plug in a total budget time here of 8, but then assign out an assignment and budget that assignment as 2, understand that this will represent 2, because that is the solidified budget based on that assignment. So we've kind of talked about 2 different ways to budget at this point. We've talked about budgeting by project, which is one total in there at the beginning, and then you're done. You track your time, you move forward. We've also talked about assigning it by assignment. So I go in there, and as I create an assignment, I put in the budget for that specific step, and then this estimated hour section will accumulate with my total budget. There is one last option, which gets you a little bit of both of those worlds. This option is definitely for those types of users who are going to be very involved in budgeting, because it does require a lot of hands-on, and that is managing your budget through the work list. So if we jump into the work list / budget area up here at the top, the name kind of gives it away. It is also for your budgets. Okay? So inside of here, we can do a little bit more than what we can do on screen. So if I go ahead and let's just say I'm gonna clean these out really quickly so that way we don't have these remnants. So I'm starting with a brand new project. There's no assignments. It's an unprocessed. It hasn't been started yet. What you can also do is basically pre-budget your assignments, or even pre-budget your staff. So inside of here, you can create things and have it represent in that total budget before you actually start the job. So this is the most complex form of budgeting that OfficeTools has within projects. So the way that you would work this is by going up to the plus sign up here and then adding a budget. This is what you want to use, not assignment, add a budget. So inside of here, there's nothing that's technically required. Okay, what you can do at this point is budget by assignment or budget by staff. You can choose which one you want to do. And what I mean by that is we can go in here and we can say our review step is going to take 5 hours. And you don't have to pick a staff at this point. So if you're not sure who's going to review it, or who's going to prep it, or who's going to do the scanning and assembling, that's okay. You can still budget the assignment ahead of time. So if I go in there, I grab review, I plug in my 5 hours and click OK, it sticks that in there as a budget. We now have an estimated budget of 5. And you can go down the line and budget all of that information right now. So the project hasn't even come in, it hasn't even been started yet, but you're already budgeting the amount of time that these items are going to take. Now, what benefit does that do for you? How does that tie into the project? Let me just show you. We'll add one more in here for the staff. So let's create a staff budget, which is specific to this person, of 10 hours. So now we have all of these informations filled in. We have the total budget amount of 17 hours total. And so now let's close this down. So you'll notice that our budget now represents 17. We are currently sitting in unprocessed. So let's go to assign work now. Let's see how this works. If I click on assign work, you'll notice that your estimated hours here is blank. But if you click into it, it now knows, because we populated in there, that we have a 2-hour budget for scan and assemble. Well, do we want to transfer this budget amount into this assignment? If we click OK, then that will update to 2. If we click cancel, then that will leave that 2 hours out there. So if I click OK, it pulls 2 in there. And now I can go in and I can pick my staff member and assign it out. So now you can see that everything updates. So now let's say I go to Joe's activity list here. Here's my assignment. I'm going to complete this. And now let's say I'm going to assign out client pickup, which doesn't have any budget, but I'm going to choose Bruce Jones. Well, look at that. It populated in that 10 hours that I used for Bruce Jones in the work list. So if I click OK, it's populated in there. And watch what happens now. So let's just say I go into Bruce Jones's activity list and I complete that assignment for client pickup. And let's just say I track 3 hours of time here. Remember that I'm doing all of this in the name of Bruce Jones, and I have a 10-hour budget that's assigned to me. And I click OK. So now if I go in and I want to assign out this assignment here to Bruce Jones again, and let's just say I go in and I pick another assignment here of review for Bruce Jones, you can see it fills in my estimated hours. So it's going to continue to update with the information that you have filled into the work list / budget. So your budgets pull in from where you plug those things into here. So it's important to understand that you can pre-build those budgets, and all of that will continue to update over here. So it's a kind of a combination of method 1, which is budgeting by project, and method 2, which is budgeting by assignment. You can go into the work list and build out all of your budgets, and then you'll have your total project budget before you start working. So as you track time, you can see the true progress total, but the budgets aren't actually created until they're assigned to the staff. And at that point, they now have a budget. It pops up on their list. And they can see that budget down here at the bottom, in case you didn't know that as well. So when I assign this to Bruce for the review, Bruce knows that he has 5 hours to work on this specific task. And how does all of that roll forward into the next year? So you do have an option set up under your global settings, if we go under projects, of what we want the project to do when it rolls forward. Do we want it to copy the budget information to new project? We check that yes or no. And then we specify exactly which piece of the budget we want. Do we want the original budgets, meaning the first budget that we had in there? Do we want it to take any original budgets or any adjustments we made to the budget? Right? So if I had 2 hours, but I decided that it needed to be 5, if I had original plus adjusted, then when it rolled forward, it would take 5. If I just chose original, then it would only take 2. Or you could specify it to actual time. Now, in most cases, this actual time option is only really good for people who are first starting to use the budgets to build their budgets for next year. That way, when you go in, you're working on a project that has no budgets, your actual time that you spend working on that project for the first time generates the budget for next year. Then next year, we would recommend that you use one of these 2 options. The most commonly used one here, the best practice, is going to be to use original plus adjusted. It takes any original budgets that you have or any adjusted budgets that you made, and that's what it carries forward into the next project. So when you guys are talking about budgeting and you guys are getting into that, those are basically the different methods of budgeting. You have your overall project budgets located down here at the bottom. You can budget by project by simply filling in an amount of hours there. You can budget by assignment as you go by populating in the estimated hours on the Create New Assignment window. Or if you're feeling, a little bit more hands-on, you can dive into the work list / budget section and pre-build all of your budgets here for a staff, for an assignment, for whatever method that you want to go ahead and budget out. All of that can be done inside of this section. So you have those 3 different methods. You have a very top level budget, which is the project. You have kind of an intermediate budget, which is you're going to budget out, but as you go, you'll assign the steps, the budgets that they need. And then last but not least, inside of here is your very heavy-handed, very involved budgeting process, which is each step gives its budget ahead of time. Each staff member can get a budget if you don't want to do, by step. You can kind of pick and choose how you want it, and that'll update both the assignment as you go and also the project as a whole. So I'm going to take a look at the questions that we have here. Can we rewatch the project's webinar if we weren't in it before? Good question, Andrew. The answer is yes. They should be available on abacusnext.com/webinars. If you can't find them or you don't see them somewhere in there, let me know. Email us at training@abacus or at officetools.com, and we'll get you access to it. So you definitely should be able to rewatch webinars that came before us. Can we lock the estimated hours so employees cannot change it? The budgeting system is designed based off of user rights. So you can go in there and turn off the budgeting system so that they can't change anything in there. They can still see their budgets, but they won't be able to make any adjustments. So absolutely, that's something that you can utilize inside of the user rights section. There's a budget system user right. You would just turn that off. Next question that we have here is about reports. How can you run a report to see budget versus actual time for a list of clients or for a single client over a period of time? So in what we've discussed today, it's very specifically talking about project budgets, not budgets over time, not budgets for tasks, very specifically for a job. So as far as time-based reports, that can get kind of tricky because it is not really for that. But your project budget report can be found under projects reports here. And if you go to the budget option here, that's going to be the report that you want to run. And you can use different types of details that you want to show inside of there. But this is the report that shows you the actual time, how much budget was used, how much budget was shown, all that kind of stuff. This is a demo database, so it does have a lot of data. We probably wouldn't be able to pull this report up with the 1 minute that we have left, but check that one out. If that's not what you're looking for, go ahead and email us, training@officetools.com, and we'll be more than happy to kind of see where you want to go with that question. But your project budget report for this is where you want to go with that, because that's based on the job. We are at our time. Thank you so much, guys, for joining in today. I hope you guys gleaned some good budgeting information off of this. If you have additional questions, or like I said, if we didn't get as in-depth as you thought we should, just email us. We'll be more than happy to do some sort of information for you, get it ready for you, get you going on the budget stuff. So just email us, training@officetools.com. Remember to update to the newest version. Check out suggestions. If something that you expect in budgets just simply isn't there, go ahead and put that into the suggestions and have people upload it. As far as upcoming webinars, please join us on any other sessions that come up. Take a look at the topics and join in. Any other questions that you guys have, or any other questions that we didn't answer, go ahead and just send them over to us, training@officetools.com. Thanks again for joining. We'll see you guys next week.